For 20 years, nothing had ever happened at Sentinel-7. Not once. Not a single anomaly worth reporting. Not a single unknown contact. Not even a system malfunction serious enough to break routine. It was a kind of assignment junior officers feared, and veterans endured, because Sentinel-7 wasn't just remote. It was irrelevant. Floating at the very edge of the Kael'ron Empire's mapped territory, the station marked a boundary no one cared about anymore. Beyond it lay nothing but uncharted void, cold, silent, and empty. At least, that's what everyone believed. Senior Monitor Vexler had long since stopped questioning that belief. She sat in her chair, as she had thousands of times before, surrounded by a dim halo of holographic displays. Soft blue light reflected across her scaled face as endless streams of data scrolled past her eyes. Asteroid trajectories, radiation fluctuations, background cosmic noise, all predictable, all meaningless. Her six-fingered hands moved with practiced precision across the console, not because anything required attention, but because routine had become instinct. 12 hours into her shift, and nothing had changed. It never did. She leaned back slightly, her posture relaxed but disciplined, and allowed her gaze to drift across the primary sensor grid. Dots. That's all space ever was out here. Dots moving in straight lines. No surprises. No deviations. No. She froze. For a fraction of a second, something felt off. Not wrong. Just different. Her eyes narrowed as she leaned forward again, focusing on the display. There. A flicker. So small it could have been dismissed as sensor noise. And for a moment, she almost did, because that's what 20 years of nothing teaches you. Ignore the anomalies. Trust the pattern. But something deep in her instincts, something older than training, told her to look again. Her fingers hovered over the controls. Then she replayed the scan. The grid refreshed. Dots reappeared. Everything normal. She exhaled slowly. Fatigue, she muttered under her breath. 12-hour shifts had a way of playing tricks on perception. Still, she initiated a secondary scan, just to be sure. The system hummed softly as it recalibrated, sweeping the same region of space with higher sensitivity. Seconds passed. Nothing. Vexler leaned back again, tension easing from her shoulders. There it was. False alarm. Just another phantom reading in a lifetime of empty space. She almost smiled. Almost. Because then, the alarm began. Soft at first. A single, quiet tone. Barely noticeable. Vexler blinked. Her head tilted slightly. That wasn't part of the normal system cycle. The tone repeated. Louder this time. Her body straightened instantly. A third pulse. Sharp. Urgent. Impossible to ignore. And then, the station erupted into a screaming alert. The calm, sterile silence of Sentinel-7 shattered as red warning lights flooded the control room, drowning out the soft blues of routine operation. Vexler was already moving. Her hand slammed across the console, pulling up priority feeds, overriding passive monitoring systems. What? Her voice caught in her throat as the main display expanded. Coordinates locked. Sensor focus engaged. And there, right there, was something that should not exist. A single contact. Moving. Fast. Too fast. Her eyes scanned the data stream, processing numbers that refused to make sense. Velocity reading. She checked it once. Then again. Then a third time. Each time, the result remained unchanged. 0.97 light speed. Her throat went dry. That's not possible. Nothing in the known galaxy could reach those speeds. Not military vessels. Not experimental engines. Not even theoretical prototypes. And yet, it was there. Approaching. Silent. Unidentified. And worst of all, it wasn't slowing down. Vexler's hands trembled, just slightly, as she initiated a full diagnostic scan. If this was an error, she needed to prove it. Immediately, because if it wasn't, then something was entering Imperial space that the Empire had never seen before, and for the first time in 20 years. Sentinel-7 wasn't irrelevant anymore. It was the first witness to something the galaxy was not prepared for. Vexler forced her hands to steady. Panic was useless. Procedure was everything. Computer, run full diagnostic, she said, her voice controlled. Barely. The system responded instantly, its tone calm, indifferent. All systems functioning within normal parameters. No errors detected. Her eyes didn't leave the screen. Run it again. A pause. Then, all systems functioning normally. No anomalies detected. Vexilla swallowed. If the system wasn't broken, then the reading was real. Her gaze snapped back to the contact. Still there. Still moving. Still impossible. She expanded the data feed, flooding the screen with raw sensor output. Numbers streamed past faster than thought, but her mind caught the important ones instantly. Velocity, 0.97 light speed. Trajectory, direct vector toward inner systems. Deviation, 0. No drift. No correction. No error margin. It was moving like a perfectly calculated equation, like something that already knew exactly where it was going. That's not navigation, she whispered. That's certainty. Her fingers moved again, faster now. Run spectral analysis. The system complied. A new panel opened. Energy readings, emission bands, thermal signatures, and then nothing. Not low, not hidden, not reduced, just absent. No. She leaned closer, scanning every line. Every vessel left a trace. Even the most advanced stealth ships in the Empire still leaked something. Heat, radiation, electromagnetic noise. It was impossible to exist in normal space without leaving fingerprints. But this thing left nothing. No energy signature. No heat profile. No communication signals. No identity. It was like the object wasn't fully there. Like it was slipping through reality, barely touching it. Her breath slowed. Not from calm. From realization. This isn't just unknown, she murmured. This doesn't belong to anything we understand. She switched frequencies, opened a standard communication channel. Sentinel-7 to unidentified vessel. She said, voice firm now, professional. You are entering Charon Empire space. Identify yourself immediately. Silence. Not even static. She frowned. Boosted transmission power. Unknown vessel. Respond. This is a monitored sector. Transmit identification codes. Nothing. Her jaw tightened. All frequencies, she ordered. The system obeyed. Radio waves, laser comms, encrypted military bands, even obsolete signal patterns no one had used in centuries. Each one transmitted the same message. Each one returned the same answer. Nothing. Vexilla's fingers hovered above the console. There was one option left. One she had never used. Backslash. In 20 years, never needed. Her eyes flicked to the emergency channel. Direct line to Imperial Fleet Command. Reserved for real threats. Real emergencies. Not sensor ghosts. Not routine anomalies. Her hand hesitated. Just for a second. Because once she pressed it, this became real. Not just for her. For the entire Empire. She glanced back at the screen. The object had moved closer. Faster than anything should. Closer than anything had a right to be. Still on course. Still silent. Still wrong. That hesitation vanished. She pressed a button. The channel opened with a sharp tone. A face appeared moments later. Young, uniformed, already annoyed. Sentinel-7, the officer said flatly, this channel is reserved for... I have detected an unknown vessel. Vexilla cut in. Her voice didn't shake this time. It is traveling at near light speed. It has no identifiable signature, and it is not responding to any communication attempts. The officer blinked, then leaned back slightly, unimpressed. Senior monitor, your sensors are likely malfunctioning. Run a full. I already did, she snapped. Twice. Silence hung between them for a moment. Then the officer sighed. Fine. Send the data. I'll have someone take a look. Vexilla didn't argue. She transmitted everything. Every scan. Every reading. Every impossible number. Then she waited, eyes locked on the screen, watching the contact. It didn't slow, didn't shift, didn't hesitate. It moved with absolute precision, like an arrow already released. 10 minutes passed. Then her console lit up again. Incoming command signal. This time, the face on the screen was different, older, Sharper, not annoyed, concerned. Sentinel-7, the commander said, "We need you to confirm your readings." Vexler leaned forward. "I already have." A pause, then the words that changed everything. "You're not the only one." Her stomach dropped. Sentinel-4 and Sentinel-9 are reporting the same contact. 3 stations, 3 confirmations, 1 impossible object. And suddenly, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a glitch. This was real, and it was already inside their space. The shift from doubt to fear didn't happen all at once. It cracked, slowly, then all at once. "Transmit your full sensor logs," Commander Zelk ordered. His voice was controlled, but tight. Vexler complied instantly, sending everything again: raw data, recalibrated scans, predictive models, every piece of proof she had. Zelk didn't respond right away. His eyes moved rapidly, reading, processing, verifying. Behind him, other officers began to gather, one by one. Then more. What had been a routine check was becoming a situation. Sentinel-4 confirms identical readings, a voice said off-screen. "Trajectory matches." Sentinel-9 verifying. "Yes, same velocity profile." Another pause, longer this time. Zelk looked back at Vexler. Gone was a dismissal. In its place, something colder. "Senior Monitor, you were correct to report this." Not relief, not validation, just confirmation. And somehow, that was worse. Vexler glanced back at her screen. The object had moved again. Closer, always closer. How long until it reaches inner systems? Zelk asked. She ran the calculation instantly. Her fingers moved automatically, but her mind already knew the answer. At current velocity, she began slowly. 14 standard cycles. 14 days. The silence that followed was absolute. Even through the comm channel, she could feel it. 14 days until something unknown, something impossible, reached the heart of the Empire. "It hasn't changed course?" Zelk asked. "No, Commander. Not even once. 0 deviation since initial detection." That detail hit harder than anything else, because speed could be explained, stealth could be explained, even unknown technology could be explained. But this, a perfect trajectory, across light years, without correction, that meant only 2 things. Either their navigation systems were beyond anything imaginable. Oh, they had been here before. Zelk turned away from the screen, speaking to someone off camera. "Notify Fleet Command. Escalate to Level 1 threat assessment." There it was. Official. Recorded. Irreversible. Across the monitoring network, everything changed. Sentinel stations that had been half asleep for decades came alive. Data streams multiplied. Long-range scanners pushed beyond safe limits. Communication channels flooded with updates. Every station, every operator, now watching the same thing. The same impossible contact, moving through space like it owned it. Vexler pulled up a wider map. The Empire spread across the display, thousands of systems, trade routes, colonies, and cutting through it. A single line, straight, unbroken, leading directly toward the core worlds. Not drifting, not searching, not exploring, heading, targeting. "It's not random," she said quietly. Zelk looked back at her. "What?" "This isn't a lost ship. It's not exploring." She highlighted the trajectory. "It knows exactly where it's going." Another officer stepped into view behind Zelk. Older, decorated, eyes sharp with experience. "Commander," he said, "Fleet Admiral Loren has been notified." That changed everything. Zelk straightened immediately. "How long?" "Transmission already sent. He'll be addressing all stations shortly." Vexler felt it then. Not fear. Not yet. Something deeper. Heavier. For 20 years, Sentinel-7 had watched nothing, because nothing had ever been worth watching. But now the entire Empire was watching the same thing she was, and none of them understood it. Her screen updated again. The object crossed another boundary marker, faster than it should have, faster than it could respond. Each second that passed, it gained ground, and the Empire was still trying to understand what it was looking at. The communication grid suddenly shifted. Priority override. All channels, every station, every command node. The image that appeared next was unmistakable. Fleet Admiral Duran. His presence filled the screen. Silver-scale face, decorations lining his uniform. A being who had commanded fleets in 3 wars, and never lost. His voice came through, deep and absolute. All monitoring stations. This is Fleet Admiral Duran. Even the background noise seemed to disappear. We are tracking an unidentified vessel entering Imperial space. No panic, no hesitation, only authority. This vessel has ignored all communication attempts and is maintaining a direct trajectory toward our core systems. A pause. Measured. Controlled. I am initiating full mobilization of the 3rd Border Legion. Vexler's eyes widened slightly. That wasn't caution. That was preparation for war. All stations will maintain continuous surveillance. The Wren continued. Report any deviation immediately. Another pause. Then, for 10,000 years, nothing has challenged the Kael'ron Empire. His gaze hardened. That changes now. The transmission ended, but the weight of those words didn't. Vexler looked back at her screen. The object was still there, still silent, still moving, still unstoppable. And now, the most powerful empire in the known galaxy was preparing for something it did not understand. The empire did what it had always done when faced with the unknown. It prepared to overwhelm it. Across dozens of systems, military bases that had stood idle for centuries roared back to life. Docking bays opened. Power cores ignited. Warships, hundreds at first, then thousands, began launching into the void. Each one a symbol of Imperial dominance. Each one built for war. At the center of it all was a command ship dominator, a vessel so massive it dwarfed entire stations. Its hull shimmered with layered shielding. Its weapons, enough to sterilize planets, sat silent, waiting. On its bridge, Fleet Admiral Duran stood unmoving, hands clasped behind his back. Before him stretched a holographic battlefield, and in the middle of it, a single, blinking point. The unknown vessel. Report, Duran said calmly. 3rd Border Legion is assembling as ordered, an officer replied. Current count, 847 warships. Additional reinforcements en route. Duran nodded once. Form interception grid along projected trajectory. Yes, Admiral. The hologram shifted. Ships moved into position. Perfect lines, calculated spacing, overlapping fields of fire. A wall, not just a fleet. A barrier. No ship could pass that formation. Not without permission. Not without being destroyed. Estimated intercept time. Duran asked. 6 hours, Admiral. He allowed himself a brief pause. 6 hours. For something traveling near light speed, that was already too close. But it would be enough. It had to be. Open fleet-wide channel. The bridge fell silent. Every officer straightened. The transmission activated. Across hundreds of warships, thousands of crew members listened. This is Fleet Admiral Duran. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. We are facing an unidentified vessel that has violated Imperial space and ignored all attempts at communication. The hologram zoomed in on the contact. Still moving. Still silent. For 10,000 years, Duran continued, the Kael'ron Empire has maintained order across this region of the galaxy. No arrogance. Just fact. We have faced pirates, insurgents, and foreign powers. A slight pause. We have defeated them all. The fleet held position, engines glowing, weapons charging quietly. This vessel will be intercepted, Duran said, and it will be made to answer. The transmission ended. No cheering, no celebration, just readiness. Back on Sentinel-7, Vexler watched it all unfold. For the first time in her career, she was no longer alone in the void. The Empire had arrived, and it had arrived in force. Her display updated. New contacts filled the screen. Warships, dozens, then hundreds, then so many they blurred together into a dense field of control power. And at the center of it all, the path, still straight, still unbroken, still aimed directly through the fleet. It's not slowing down, she whispered. On the Dominator, an officer spoke again. "Admiral, unknown vessel maintaining speed. No change in trajectory." The Wren didn't react immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the hologram. "Does it acknowledge our presence?" "No, Admiral." "Any communication attempts?" "None detected." A faint shift passed through the bridge. "Not fear. Not yet. But something close. Prepare standard contact protocol." The Wren ordered. "Open all channels when target enters range." "Yes, Admiral." Time stretched. Minutes felt longer, every second bringing the object closer. Then, contact entering visual range. The main display changed. For the first time, they saw it. A dark shape, small compared to the fleet, insignificant in size. But wrong. Its surface didn't reflect light. It absorbed it, edges blurred, as if it wasn't fully contained by reality. It moved without visible propulsion. No engines, no exhaust, no indication of how it even existed. "Hold formation," the Wren said quietly. "Do not fire unless ordered." Hundreds of warships surrounded it now. A trap, a perfect interception. "Open communication," the Wren commanded. A signal went out, then another, then dozens. "Unidentified vessel," the Wren said, his voice broadcast across space itself. "You are surrounded by Imperial forces. Reduce speed and identify yourself immediately." The fleet waited, weapons ready, sensors locked, every system focused. The vessel continued forward, unaffected, unbothered, unimpressed. It didn't slow, didn't tang, didn't respond. It simply entered the formation. The entire fleet was watching. Hundreds of warships, thousands of officers, all focused on a single, silent shape drifting through their formation, as if none of them existed. "Range locked," an officer reported. "Target fully within interception grid." "Good," Admiral the Wren replied calmly. "Maintain position." His eyes never left the screen. The ship was closer now. Close enough to destroy. Close enough to stop. Close enough to force an answer. "Open all communication channels," he ordered. "Maximum clarity." The transmission spread instantly across every frequency known to the Empire. Radio, laser, quantum entanglement relays, even ancient signal protocols long abandoned. Nothing was left unused. "Unidentified vessel." Theron's voice echoed into the void. "You are now within a secured Imperial zone." A pause. Measured. Controlled. "You will reduce speed immediately and transmit identification." The fleet waited. Sensors locked. Weapons primed, but not aimed. A show of strength, not aggression. Seconds passed. Then more. "Any response?" The Wren asked. "No, Admiral." "Repeat transmission." The same message went out again. Stronger, clearer, more direct. Silence. Not static. Not interference. Not even distortion. Just nothing. On the bridge, something shifted. Subtle, unspoken, because this wasn't how encounters worked. Every civilization, no matter how primitive, responded. Fear, confusion, hostility, something. But this was indifference. "Try alternate signal formats," the Wren ordered. "Everything we have." New transmissions flooded space. Mathematical sequences, light pulse patterns, encoded universal constants, even primitive greeting structures used in first contact scenarios thousands of years ago. Still nothing. The ship moved forward, unchanged, unaffected. "Admiral," one of the officers said slowly, "it hasn't altered speed or heading since entering the formation." Theron's jaw tightened. "Of course it hasn't." Because it wasn't reacting. It wasn't evaluating. It wasn't even acknowledging. It was continuing. Distance to core formation. The Wren asked. 2 minutes at current velocity. 2 minutes. Until it passed through the strongest military blockade in the Empire. "Request permission for warning shot," another officer said. The Wren didn't answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the ship. Thinking. Calculating. Measuring a situation that didn't behave like any he had ever faced. Then, "Approved," he said. 1 shot. non-lethal trajectory. The order moved instantly. One of the warships adjusted position. Weapons aligned. Energy built along its firing array. Firing! A beam of concentrated energy lanced through space. Brilliant, precise, cutting across the void directly in front of the unknown vessel. Close enough to be unmistakable. Far enough to avoid impact. A warning. Clear. Unavoidable. The entire fleet watched. The beam passed. Light faded. Space returned to silence. The vessel didn't react. Not even a fraction. No change in velocity. No shift in trajectory. No response of any kind. It simply continued. Did it register the shot? The Wren asked. Yes, Admiral. Sensors confirm proximity. And the officer hesitated. No reaction. A faint ripple moved across the bridge. This time, closer to Faye. Prepare second, one officer began. No, the Wren interrupted. Silence, because now he understood something. Something none of them wanted to say out loud. This isn't defiance, he said quietly. All eyes turned to him. It's not ignoring us. A pause. Heavy. Cold. It doesn't consider us relevant. The words landed harder than any weapon. On the main display, the ship reached the center of the formation, surrounded, outnumbered, targeted, and completely unaffected. Admiral, another officer said slowly, if it continues on this course. The Wren finished the sentence himself. It exits our formation in 43 seconds. 43 seconds. And the Empire would have failed, without a single shot fired. Back on Sentinel-7, Vexilla watched the feed in silence. Her hands were still, her breathing slow. For the first time since the alarm began, she wasn't trying to understand the object anymore. She was watching the Empire fail to stop it, and there was nothing anyone could do. Object exiting primary formation, an officer reported. No one moved. No one spoke. They just watched. The unknown vessel passed through the center of the fleet. Untouched, unchallenged, unstoppable. Track it, Admiral the Wren ordered. His voice was still calm. But now, there was something beneath it. Something tighter. Control pressure. It's approaching the neutral zone boundary, another officer said. That changed everything. The neutral zone wasn't just empty space. It was defended. Ancient systems. Automated. Unforgiving. Defense satellites will engage automatically. The officer continued. No authorization required. Theron's eyes narrowed. Override them. Attempting. A pause. Then, too late, Admiral. Target has crossed the boundary. On the main display, 3 dormant satellites came to life. Old technology, primitive by modern standards, but still deadly. Impact in 5 seconds, the system announced. The unknown vessel didn't slow, didn't maneuver, didn't react. Full. The satellites fired. Kinetic projectiles, dense, accelerated masses designed to tear through armor, launched at incredible speeds. Faster than reaction time. Faster than thought. 3. The fleet watched. 2. The projectiles closed a distance. 1. They vanished. No explosion. No impact. No deflection. Just gone. Every screen showed it. Every sensor confirmed it. The projectiles simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been fired. What? Someone spoke. No one finished the question, because there was no answer. Sensor malfunction, another officer said weakly. Negative, came the reply instantly. All systems normal. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. The unknown vessel continued forward, unharmed, untouched. Then, it did something. Not aggressive, not fast, not even visible in a conventional sense. Admiral, an officer whispered, look at the satellites. Theron's gaze snapped to the display. The satellites were coming apart, not exploding, not damaged, disassembling, piece by piece. Panels separated cleanly. Internal structures drifted free. Connections unraveled like they were being gently undone. No weapons fire. No energy signatures. No force detected. It was like something reached out and simply told them to stop being whole. How is it doing that? Someone asked. No one answered, because no one understood what they were seeing. This isn't an attack. Dr. Silent's voice came through the channel, a tone filled with awe. It's control. The last satellite drifted apart into silent debris, and the unknown vessel never slowed, never reacted, never acknowledged what it had just done. On the bridge, Admiral Loren stood perfectly still. This was no longer a question of threat. This was a demonstration, a message, and the message was clear. Your weapons are meaningless. Your defenses are irrelevant. Your understanding of reality is incomplete. Admiral, an officer said carefully, we cannot stop it. For the first time, the Wren didn't respond immediately, because there was nothing left to command. Back on Sentinel-7, Vexilla leaned closer to the screen, her eyes wide, her mind racing, trying to fit what she had just seen into logic, into science, into anything that made sense. But nothing did, because this was an advanced technology. This was something else, something beyond them, and it was moving deeper into their space, as if nothing they had built had ever mattered. For a moment, no one spoke, not on the Dominator, not across the fleet, not anywhere in the Empire, because what they had just witnessed had no place in their understanding of reality. And then, everything changed. Admiral, incoming transmission, the communications officer shouted. Head snapped toward the console. Source. The vessel. That alone was enough to freeze the room. After everything, after ignoring every attempt at contact, after passing through their fleet like it didn't exist, now it was speaking. Put it through. The Wren ordered immediately. The officer hesitated. Admiral, it's not a standard signal. Explain. It's data, not sound, not language, pure information. Decoding. The Wren asked. That's a problem, the officer said, confusion creeping into his voice. Our systems aren't decoding it. A pause. Then, they're being taught how to understand it. That sent a ripple through the bridge. What? The Wren demanded. The transmission is rewriting our translation matrices in real time. It's adjusting to our systems. Admiral the Wren stared at the display. Even that was beyond anything they possessed. Display output, he said. The main screen flickered. Data stream collapsed into structure. Symbols aligned. Language formed. And then words appeared. Clear. Perfect. In flawless Imperial script. We are human. We are here for our people. Silence. Total. Absolute. The words didn't just land. They sank. Human, the Wren said slowly. The word felt wrong. Unfamiliar. Out of place. Search the database. He ordered. Already running. An officer replied. Results flooded in. Then slowed. Then stopped. Minimal records. The officer said. Designation exists, but classified as obsolete. Obsolete. The Wren repeated. Approximately 400 years old. That got everyone's attention. Dr. Silent's voice cut through the channel. Admiral, I'm cross-referencing historical archives now. Report. There was an incident, she said carefully. A damaged colony vessel entered Imperial space. The bridge listened. They identified themselves as human. Theron's expression hardened. What happened to them? A pause. Then, they were processed. Define processed. Another pause. Longer this time. They were redistributed across labor colonies. The words felt heavier now. Their ship? The Wren asked. Dismantled for materials. Silence returned. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It was understanding. Cold. Unavoidable. They asked for help. Ambassador Close said quietly, stepping forward. And we absorbed them. Dr. Silent continued. There is no record of repatriation. No attempt to locate their origin. No diplomatic follow-up. We didn't rescue them, Close said. No one argued. We took them. On the main display, the unknown vessel began to descend. Trajectory shift, an officer reported. Targeting. Colony 793. Why there? The Wren demanded. Unknown. But it wasn't random. Nothing about this had been random. The ship entered the atmosphere without resistance. No heat bloom, no friction, no visible entry. It simply arrived. On the surface, workers stopped, machines slowed, and then they began to move, not running, not panicking, walking toward the ship. Admiral, a ground officer's voice came through, shaken. Workers are leaving their stations. How many? Hundreds. No, thousands. Stop them. We're trying. They're not responding to commands. On the screen, the crowd grew, faces calm, movements deliberate. They are not being forced, Close whispered. He leaned closer, watching. They're answering something. The ship's surface shifted, not opening, becoming permeable, like liquid, and the humans walked through it, one by one, no hesitation, no fear, like they were going home. Count, the Wren ordered. Tracking. A pause. Then, 2,847 individuals. Dr. Silent's voice returned. Tight. Controlled. That's exact. What? The Wren asked. I just cross-referenced the colony database. Another pause. Then, there are exactly 2,847 human descendants on that colony. The realization hit all at once. It knew, the Wren said slowly, not approximately. Silent's voice dropped. Exactly. The last human entered the ship, the surface sealed, and the vessel lifted. The ship rose from Colony 793 without resistance. No weapons fired, no defenses triggered, no retaliation. It simply took what it came for and left on the bridge of the Dominator. No one spoke, not because they didn't have orders, not because they didn't understand the situation, but because, for the first time, they understood it too well. They didn't attack, one officer said quietly. No, Ambassador Close replied. His eyes remained fixed on the screen. They didn't need to. The silence deepened, because the truth was beginning to take shape, not as data, not as strategy, but as something far more dangerous. Perspective. They knew exactly how many were there, the Wren said slowly, and where they were, Silent added, and how to reach them. Close finished. None of that was coincidence. That means one officer began, but couldn't finish. They've been tracking them, Silent said, for generations. The weight of that statement settled across the room. 400 years, 4 centuries of watching, waiting, knowing, and never acting. Until now. Why now? The Wren asked. No one answered immediately, because the answer wasn't technical. It was human. Because they are ready, Close said quietly. He stepped closer to the display, watching the ship ascend beyond the colony. They didn't come in anger. His voice tightened. They came in certainty. Across the Empire, the transmission spread. The message, the footage, the truth. Colony governors replayed the scene in disbelief. Workers walking willingly into the unknown. Not forced, not afraid, answering something unseen. They didn't resist, one report said. Why would they? Another replied. And that question spread faster than the data itself. Why would they? Because for the first time in their lives, someone had come for them. On Calorop Prime, inside the Imperial Palace, the Emergency Council reconvened. Voices clashed. Arguments rose. It's a hostile act, one general insisted. They violated Imperial space. They didn't attack, another countered. They retrieved individuals from a colony. Without permission. Were they ours to keep? That question cut through the room like a blade. Silence followed, because no one wanted to answer it. Chancellor Morn stood slowly. The room fell quiet instantly. What do we actually know? He asked. Not emotionally, not politically, factually. Silence stepped forward. We know the vessel is more advanced than anything we possess. We know it can bypass all defenses without effort. We know it has complete knowledge of human populations within our territory. A pause. And we know, her voice softened slightly, that those humans did not resist leaving. Morn turned toward the massive window overlooking the capital. Billions of lives below, all built on the certainty that the Empire was absolute, unchallenged, unquestioned. We believed we were the pinnacle of civilization, he said quietly. No one interrupted. We believed nothing existed beyond our understanding. Another pause. That belief may have been a mistake. Back on the Dominator, the ship had fully exited the colony's atmosphere, and now it stopped just outside orbital range. Hovering, waiting. Why did it stop? The Wren asked. No one answered, because no one knew. Then, the communication systems activated again. Stronger this time, faster, more data, flooding every system simultaneously. Admiral, new transmission incoming. The Wren didn't move. Display it. The data began to form again, faster than before, cleaner, sharper, and then it resolved into something new. Not just words, a list, coordinates, names, numbers, and at the bottom, a total, 147,936. Close stared at it, his voice barely above a whisper. That's not a message. The Wren looked at him. Then what is it? Close didn't look away from the screen. That's a count. The number didn't change. 147,936. Not an estimate, not a projection, an exact count. Every human, every descendant, every life scattered across the Empire, tracked, catalogued, known. They've mapped our entire territory, one officer said, voice strained. Not just territory, Dr. Silent corrected. They've mapped our people. On the screen, the list expanded. 74 locations, colonies, stations, deep space outposts, even long-range exploration vessels. Every place where a human existed. And beside each one, a number. They know exactly how many are at each site. Close said quietly. Theron's jaw tightened. That's not surveillance. Silent finished it for him. That's control. Then the message appeared. Clear, simple, unmistakable. You have 10 cycles. Return our people. Failure to comply will result in retrieval by force. No emotion, no threats, no exaggeration, just certainty. On the Dominator, the silence broke instantly. They're issuing demands, one officer said. Ultimatum, another corrected. The Wren didn't speak, because this wasn't negotiation. This was instruction. Admiral, Close said carefully. They are not asking. The Wren turned slowly. We do not take orders from unknown entities. The words sounded strong, but they didn't feel strong. Then what do we do? An officer asked. No one answered immediately, because every option led to the same conclusion. We comply, Close said. The word landed heavily. We gather the humans, return them. That would show weakness, another officer argued. No, Close replied. It would show intelligence. Theron's gaze hardened. And if we refuse? Silent answered this time. We have already seen what one ship can do. A pause. Do we really want to find out what happens when they stop holding back? No one argued after that. Across the Empire, chaos began. Orders spread rapidly. All human descendants are to be identified and relocated. Governors scrambled. Security forces mobilized. Data systems overloaded. On mining worlds, workers were pulled from shifts. On agricultural colonies, families were separated. On stations, crews were detained. Confusion spread. Fear followed. They think they are being punished, one report said. They don't understand what's happening. Because how could they? 4 generations. They had lived as part of the Empire, worked for it, belonged to it. Now, they were being told. They never had. Back on the Dominator, the Wren watched reports flood in. Current retrieval count, 120,000. An officer reported. Still missing approximately 27,000. Locations. Remote systems. Deep space vessels. Unresponsive colonies. The Wren exhaled slowly. We're running out of time. How long? Close asked. 2 cycles. 2 days. Prepare transport fleet, the Wren ordered. We'll move them to a single location. Where? The Wren didn't hesitate. Sector 14. Neutral space. Far from the core, but close enough for a military response. Kthos understood immediately. You're setting a trap. The Wren didn't deny it. We're preparing for all outcomes. 2 days later, Sector 14 became something the galaxy had never seen before. Over 2,000 warships assembled, the largest concentration of military power in Imperial history. At the center, transport ships, carrying tens of thousands of humans. Waiting. They'll come, closer quietly. The Wren nodded. Yes. The only question left was not if they would come, but what would happen when they did. Admiral, long-range sensors detecting incoming contacts. All eyes snapped to the display. How many? A pause. Then, full. Silence. Full, someone repeated. Yes, Admiral. 4 vessels. Moving at impossible speed. Approaching. Unstoppable. They arrive exactly on time. 4 ships. Dark. Silent. Unimpressive in size. And yet, every warship in Sector 14 adjusted position. Instinctively. As if something deep, unspoken, recognized the truth before anyone said it out loud. Hold formation, Admiral the Wren ordered. His voice was steady. But the bridge felt different now. Tighter, heavier. The 4 vessels stopped at the edge of the fleet. No shields raised. No weapons charged. No signs of preparation for conflict. They didn't need them. Incoming transmission, the communications officer said. This time, it's visual. Display. The main screen shifted. Static dissolved. And then, a face appeared. Human. Middle-aged. Dark hair. Calm eyes. Not angry. Not afraid. Disappointed. I am Captain Sarah Chen, she said. Her voice was clear. Measured. Controlled. Commanding officer of the Human Recovery Vessel Remembrance. No introduction. No explanation. Just presence. You have gathered our people, she continued. A slight nod. Thank you. The words hit strangely. Not gratitude. Not approval. Acknowledgement. Transfer them to our vessels, she said, and we will depart. That was it. No negotiation. No diplomacy. Just expectation. Admiral the Wren stepped forward. This is Fleet Admiral the Wren of the Kael'ron Empire. His voice carried authority, but it didn't carry control anymore. Before any transfer occurs, we will discuss terms. A pause. Chen's expression didn't change. Terms, she repeated. The faintest shift in her eyes. There are no terms. Silence. You have our people, she said. We are taking them home. Theron's gaze hardened. You are surrounded by over 2,000 warships. It sounded powerful, but it felt hollow. Perhaps we should proceed carefully. For the first time, Chen smiled. It wasn't warm. It wasn't friendly. It was knowing. Admiral, she said quietly, we left this region of space 50,000 years ago. The bridge went still. We hoped, she continued, that in that time you would have learned. A pause. Clearly, you have not. The Wren opened his mouth, then stopped, because deep down, he already knew. We crossed the galaxy, Chen said. We moved beyond the limitations of physical space. No arrogance, just fact, and yet, her eyes met his. You are still threatening people to keep what was never yours. Silence, heavy, unavoidable. Begin the transfer, the Wren said. The words came out quietly, but they echoed across the fleet, because everyone understood what they meant. Not surrender, acceptance. Transport ships opened. Shuttles moved. Thousands of humans, confused, uncertain, silent, began crossing from one civilization to another. Some looked back. Most didn't. Hours passed. No one interfered. No one resisted, because there was nothing left to prove. Transfer complete, an officer reported. Approximately 120,000 individuals delivered. The Wren nodded slowly. We were unable to locate the remaining. We know, Chen interrupted. Her voice was calm. We know where they are. Before anyone could respond, the 4 ships moved, splitting apart, accelerating, faster than anything the fleet could track. They are dispersing, an officer shouted. Multiple vectors across the Empire. They are going to retrieve the rest, Klo said quietly, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. 3 days later, it was over. Every human, every descendant, gone, taken, not by force, but by inevitability. A final meeting was granted, a neutral shuttle, no fleets, no weapons, just understanding. Why help us? The Wren asked, because they had coordinates, warnings, safe routes, a gift. After everything, Chen stood. Because we remember, she said. A pause. We remember what it was like to believe we were the greatest civilization in existence. Her eyes softened, just slightly. We were wrong too. She turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. Silence. This region of space, a glance, is under human protection. Not a threat, a fact. Follow the guidance we left you, and you'll survive. She stepped away. Moments later, the human ships vanished. Not gradually, not with speed. They simply ceased to exist. Back in the Empire, no one celebrated. No one spoke of victory, because for the first time in 10,000 years, they understood something. They were not the strongest. They were not the oldest. They were not alone at the top. They had simply never met the ones who came before.